Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Lounge radio show, where we expose the myths of entrepreneurship and release the weight of it all. Real people, real issues, and real talk with expert solutions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we welcome our host, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru.
And welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur's Lounge radio show. I am your host, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru, and I just have a simple question for tonight's show. Are you ready to pay the cost to be the boss? And make no doubt about it, funding is an important part of any business, the same way oil is to your car engine. And some statistics just briefly to share with you. The Small Business Administration states that 30% of new businesses will fail during the first 2 years of being open, 50% during the first 5 years, and then 66% during the first 10. And the SBA goes on to state that only 25% make it to 15 years or more. Now, what's scary about those statistics is that the vast majority of startup funds, 82% to be exact, actually come from the entrepreneur themselves or their family and friends. 77% of small businesses actually rely on their personal savings for their initial startup funds. 40% of small businesses are profitable, percent break even, and 30% are continually losing money. So when you think about the investment, maybe it's your child's college fund that's impacted or your retirement savings, there's a huge cost in entrepreneurship and being a business owner. So as the cliche says, the dream or vision is free, but actually bringing that to fruition is what is so costly. And tonight's guests know firsthand and definitely will give us some wisdom and enlightenment on what they've learned along their journey to success. And I just want to remind everyone that if you're listening via the internet, you can call into the show 1-949-534-0604 and press 1 to be live on the air at any time and actually question our guests and join the conversation. So at this time, I want to bring on our first guest. Mr. James Oliver Jr., he is the CEO and founder of WeMONTAGE. He is a tech entrepreneur, an author, as well as a parentpreneur. And he raised over $435,000 for his company. He's auditioned for Shark Tank, and he has received national press, including the Today Show, Good Morning America, and even being quoted in the Wall Street Journal. So you cannot imagine what type of knowledge he has to share. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and welcome him and bring him on to the show. So good evening, Mr. Oliver. We thank you for joining us today. How are you tonight?
Hey, Alicia, I'm doing great. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. And we're just so glad you accepted the invitation. And I know probably the number one thing every listener wants to know is how did you raise the $435,000? But I'm not going to ask you to tell us that first. Wanted you to sort of tell us what is WeMONTAGE and what was your why behind starting the company?
So WeMontage.com is the world's only website that lets you turn your digital images into custom removable photo wallpaper that we actually print and ship to you. I got inspired for the idea of watching an interior design show on HGTV. They were in a family's basement covering the walls with these big, beautiful collages. And I wanted one. I had some great pictures from my wedding in the Dominican Republic. But I literally stayed up the entire night trying to figure out how they did that, only to discover there was no way for the average person to do it. So I cleaned out my savings and had a beta version of the website built.
Wow. Oh, so you initially used your savings to fund the business.
I did.
According to that statistic that we shared earlier. And like we said, a lot of entrepreneurs.
That's right.
But what's really interesting, I love the fact that you saw something on television you really gave it some thought and then thought about a way that you could make this better. And then you invested in it. But the funny thing is, and that's what entrepreneurs do. But the funny thing is, a few years ago, when I was like introduced to who you were in the company, there was a different story that I came in on. And that is one with the company called Groupon. And I'm going to let you explain it, but in short, yeah, you almost lost your entire business because you used their system. Now, I want to give a disclaimer. We're not denouncing Groupon. We're not giving any negative connotation to that company, like anything. I got to do that for legal reasons. I don't want to get sued.
But I can say whatever. I can say whatever I want, though, right?
Right. I have nothing to do with that. But, everything is not good for everybody, and there's a strategy.
That's right.
That's how we don't know, blah, blah, blah. So I gave the disclaimer. So I want you to share with people what happened. What put your company in this?
So I'll just say this. The way they pitched it was, you're getting exposure to 50 million new eyeballs. So it's advertising, and they told me that those customers would come back and become new customers, and they explained that there was a bunch of breakage, which meant a large percentage of those people would never redeem their coupons or their Groupons. But that just simply wasn't the case overall. And the other thing is just the way it was structured back then. This was a while ago, so I don't know what they're doing now, but the deal, I think they made you cut my price in half, and then they split that fee basically down the middle, plus some credit card processing fees. So essentially, if you're not marking up your product at least 4 times, every time somebody redeems a Groupon, at least under that scenario, you will be losing money, which is exactly what happened in my case. And, we did this over Black Friday weekend, and, maybe there was a extremely high redemption rate because it was a shopping weekend, right? But I was paying attention, and so we were selling tons of Groupons. But then I'm looking at all these orders coming through. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm losing a lot of money here. I'm like losing a lot of money here. So I'm just thankful I was paying attention, So I contacted them. Yeah. We put the brakes on it. Yeah, we put the brakes on it, but it just caused a lot of cash flow problems. I'll just say that.
I can imagine, and after I heard your story, because what's the end?
And worst part, like those people never came back. I had like maybe one customer out of all those people over the years that came back and purchased one at regular price. And on top of that, I've just been so used to my customers being just wonderful, just great people, appreciative of wonderful customer service, just nice. But those people, they were something else. Let me tell you that. So I wouldn't never do that again.
Wow. But the theory, the concept sounds great.
Exactly.
The concept sounds great. Exactly. I mean, you're going to get all of these eyeballs on your product. And, what business owner, it's like the thing where they tell you to speak for free because you get exposure. Who doesn't want more exposure?
But, my kids don't eat exposure, so.
Exactly. So, got a little bit of an issue there. Yeah. But the biggest takeaway I got from that is, you're looking at other stories, but there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of strategy, and what might be right under certain conditions for someone else just may not be right for that entrepreneur. Because that sounds scary, but I've heard that.
Right. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but if you have an advertising expense budget, you could just simply look at it that way, right? And just eat that cost and just chalk it up as advertising. But I simply, in my experience, the ROI was just not there. Those people never came back. Those people are conditioned to purchase products at an extremely discounted rate, and unless you can do that and do so at a profit, I would avoid it.
And, those are the things that are not always told to people in the beginning. It goes back to the,
right.
You're going to have all this exposure. So that's why people make the decisions. Yeah. And I thought about it when you shared that, and I never went on Groupon to do repeat business. It is that quick grab, let me get this discount.
Right, exactly.
And that's it.
Exactly.
I have no plans to do repeat business with you.
Exactly.
So, but from the entrepreneur perspective, sometimes we wouldn't consider that. We get the exposure story, a lot of people, I'm going to make great sales, so hey. So now you heard it, folks. Again, we're not downing Groupon. We're just saying that, sometimes certain opportunities for marketing your business are not the best thing. I don't want them to sue me. I'm just saying. So.
You just got to know what you're getting into and be smart about it.
Yeah. And then, like you said, this was something where you took your savings and invested to start the company. So can you just, well, you can imagine, but for the listening audience, can you imagine this is an idea you believe in, you were inspired, you created this, and now here's an opportunity that you're thinking this is going to be awesome because there's going to be plenty of people to look at my brand and get it out there and then wind up, this move actually puts your company almost at risk of shutting down. So how did you go from that to raising $435,000 for the company?
Well, I actually raised the capital before the whole Groupon thing. So I was fortunate enough. At the time, we were living in Northeast Wisconsin, and in a small town near Appleton, Wisconsin, about 30 miles south of Green Bay, which is pretty remarkable because it's not exactly a thriving tech startup ecosystem up there. But I just, Alicia, I'm in the 99th percentile of persistent and resilient people on the planet, and I just don't quit. So I heard about a tech accelerator that had two cohorts, like twice a year, one in Madison, Wisconsin, one in Milwaukee. The Madison was a 2-hour drive from my home. So I was driving back and forth to Madison to go to those meetups, to meet the founders of the accelerator. And I applied to the accelerator, and I got in. And that was so critical because, like I said, there's not a lot of opportunity up there for tech startups. And I knew that getting into this accelerator would be the one way that I could gain credibility to get exposure to some of those angel investors that I was contacting all along who were simply ignoring me. And, that's exactly what happened. We were doing, pitches for these various angel groups. And I remember it was demo day, which is basically graduation day for the accelerator. And I was about to go on stage in front of a room full of hundreds of people to pitch, many of whom were probably investors. And I got a phone call from one of the guys who represented one of the angel groups that I pitched. And at the time, I was looking to raise $250,000. I got a call right before I went on stage, and he said that they were going to fill my entire $250,000 round. And I just dropped to my knees and thank God because I had been through so much prior to that. Because 2 days before the accelerator started, my twins were born 3 months prematurely and only weighed 2 pounds. So I was in this accelerator and my kids were in the NICU. So I'm back and forth to the NICU. That was just a really, really difficult time, and just grinding it out, and just to be able to deal with all that. Have my kids come home and be well in the process, and get the minimum viable product built in time for demo day, and to raise that capital like that, I was just very thankful.
And I want to delve into that a little bit because I did say you were a parentpreneur as well, but
that's right.
We talked about in the last episode of how people have these life-altering things that occur, and the challenges of, continuing with the business or having to halt the business, or whether we just shut it down. What made you make that decision to actually still go to this competition with the twins being born prematurely?
Well, that was a decision we made as a family. Right? That was a decision that we made together. So we made the decision because we realized the family needed the business to be successful. We all thought it was a great idea. It was a decision we made together.
Okay. And see, this part, you know, a lot of times when you say parentpreneur or when you talk about balancing family and the business, we a lot of times talk about that with females. We don't really talk to men and the fathers about this. Typically, we never ask a man how he balances his family and business. We throw that responsibility more on the woman, which is unfortunate because men, you know, great fathers really do have that balance as well when they're active and participating. Yeah. So, as you said, it was a family decision.
Yeah, but I think the whole work-life balance thing, I don't know what that is. I think that's some kind of myth or illusion. I think it's more like work-life integration. Like, how can you integrate those two things into your life effectively? And, you know, there were, I mean, as, you know, CEO, I mean, as chief everything officer, right? I was doing almost everything except for writing the code for the software, because I'm a non-technical founder of a startup that requires very complicated software to deliver the product that we do. And, you know, being sufficiently present, you know, that's something that I struggle with. I mean, I still struggle with that, you know, just because, you know, I got emails, customers calling, people, you know, live chatting me from the in-app CRM on the website. You know, it's just what it is, man. When you're grinding, and especially when you're starting out, Paul Graham from Y Combinator famously said, you know, when you're starting out, you have to do things that don't scale. And, you know, a lot of that stuff didn't scale, but you have to do it when you just do. So, you know, I have been extremely involved with the children from day one. Like I said, I spent a ton of time with them in the NICU. You know, we ran out of money the first round of capital. I had to go home. I was taking care of the kids. They were 18 months. I'm home with them, taking care of them, plus still working on the business.
Yes. Yes. This is not for the faint at heart.
No. All day.
You know, it's one thing for one child, but two of them?
Yeah. I have this funny video. I remember I was putting together a cold email to send to one of the writers for TechCrunch, because I was trying to get WeMONTAGE featured on TechCrunch, which hasn't happened yet, but that's going to happen one of these days, I promise you.
Okay.
And my daughter is coming up to me screaming because one of her toys wasn't working. I just got that on video. I just thought that was hilarious.
Oh. Well, it was important to her. She doesn't care about what you're trying to do. It's important to her. More important than the business.
Clearly.
That is too hilarious. So you said that you actually raised all of this money before the whole Groupon thing. So for someone listening and they're thinking about crowdfunding, because to be honest, I have seen some of the dumbest ideas that get so much funding. And it seems like when someone has a really good idea, they don't always get that much funding. So what suggestions do you have for anyone listening and sort of wants to do the same thing?
Do what? Raise capital?
Yeah, the actual crowdfunding thing. And I will preface it by saying this. There are some tips you gave us behind the scenes that we are going to post in the Friends of the Show private Facebook group. But just some, maybe 2 or 3 things you would say that are really important if you're considering crowdfunding.
Okay, so I personally have not done a crowdfunding campaign, but I have a few friends who have successfully crushed multiple campaigns. And a couple things that they always tell me is make sure you have your PR lined up in advance, because, you know, PR is going to be a big part of the way you drive eyeballs to your campaign. Then make sure you have a bunch of your friends and family prepared to contribute, like, right out of the box. Right out of the box. Because nobody wants to contribute to a campaign that doesn't have any momentum. They think it's not going anywhere, right?
That's true.
So those are a couple of things. You know, and make sure you just know your why, have a compelling why, have a great video. Those are some of the things that I've heard from those guys.
And you actually auditioned for Shark Tank. How difficult was that process, and what were your results?
So I auditioned 2 times, 3 times? I think it was twice I auditioned. And I made it past the first round. I made it to the next to last round both times. but I didn't get on the show. But I think I sent you a link to. I wrote an article about how to crush your 60-second Shark Tank audition or your pitch. So I did that twice. So I think it's fair to say I know how to effectively do that. So I think I shared that link with you, and you can share that with your followers.
Absolutely.
But I did. I was actually able to get on CNBC's version of Shark Tank, which was called the West Texas Investors Club, and that's actually now canceled. Although I did get a Facebook message from somebody in the Netherlands a couple months ago who just finished watching the show, they said, which was hilarious. I thought it was canceled. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I was able to get – so in that instance, the producers contacted me, but I had to jump through a ton of hoops to get on that thing. I mean, massive background checks, signing a bunch of documents, just a lot of hoops, a lot of interviews, video calls, a lot.
I've heard that. And how long would you say from the time you first started the audition to you actually made the appearance it took with all of those different things?
The audition process was a few months. Once we filmed it in January 2016, and it aired, I think that was July of 2016, I think. So, in that instance, that show is not as popular as Shark Tank, naturally, because it's no longer around. But I was just really surprised that, so obviously I was thankful for that opportunity. I was incredibly nervous on set. I don't know, I signed this non-disclosure, and I'm not supposed to talk about anything that happened on there for fear of like $1 million breach penalty.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's just because the show was not extremely highly watched, which I guess is why it's no longer around. But it didn't do a lot for my business. It didn't. I think I maybe got like $6,000 in sales from it, maybe.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't do much at all.
Wow. See, here's another juicy nugget we didn't know. Groupon and now this. It's the things that people just think, if I do this, I'm on the map.
Yeah, no, but everybody's experience is different, right? So I didn't get a deal, which was fine, and then the way if you watch closely, if you're able to see it, they completely conflated various conversations and created a false narrative, which was fine. I don't care, right? As long as I get mine, you can do and say whatever. I don't care. But in the end, it just was not. It wasn't extremely helpful for the business.
Okay. So when we've seen, I've mentioned that you've been on Good Morning America and Today's Show, and then Wall Street Journal quoted you, and then you're on Do It Yourself Network. How are you garnering all of this media attention? National media attention.
Yeah. So first of all, if you are a founder or CEO of a company, nobody can tell your story with as much passion and enthusiasm as you are. Not a PR person, nobody. Just like the title of my book, getting national PR is always a combination of luck and hustle. Every story is different. Every situation is different, but it's always a combination of luck and hustle. And so I will say a couple things. One, you need to know, build your community before you need it, right? I mean, being part of your community, your Facebook community, right? Get in some Facebook groups, engage with people, share, give. So when you need to go in there and make an ask, people are like, oh, absolutely, whatever you need, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is learn how to send cold emails. I sent one cold email to a writer of CNET.com, which got me featured on his blog and also on CNET, and we did like $9,000 from that one email I sent.
Wow.
So if you Google how to send cold emails, there's tons of resources out there. But the main thing is just know who that person's target audience is. Be brief. include a link to your website, and just get right to the point. Because, people don't want to read a novel-length email. And don't call people because 9 times out of 10 they're not going to answer their phone. And don't leave a voicemail because they're not going to call you back. So learn how to send cold emails. Am I lying?
No, you're not. That's why I laughed. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's true. So learn how to send cold emails and follow up. And it's okay, there's a fine line between persistence and annoyance. And if you're not occasionally crossing the line and annoying people, you're probably not trying hard enough. So.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
And it's so funny that you said cold emails because, you have so many people that feel like that's outdated. You don't need to do that. We have social media, so why would you need to do cold emails? But it's like, I think when you see stuff go down, that's one thing. Yeah. And real business is actually still done by emails. I mean,
Absolutely.
People don't always
the social media thing, I've heard some people say that they've been able to get some things done like that on social media. That has not been my experience, so I just do what works for me, right? Cold emails or work LinkedIn. Try to find somebody that's connected to that person on LinkedIn and ask for an introduction, right? So the other thing is there's this one site that I used to use. It's called Just Reach Out, but they've actually pivoted from B2C to B2B, so it's super expensive now. But I found another one that I think is similar. It's similar called Press Farm. So that's a service that you go on there, you pay a little bit, and you could find out who's writing about your topic of interest, and then they will tell you who the writer is, and I think they'll provide the contact information for that person. And then you do what? Send them said cold email, right? That's what it is.
So we would definitely have to make sure we put those resources in the group. You're right. So since you alluded to your book, tell us more about that, because that actually was close to the topic of last month's show, or the week before last show.
Okay. So the more you hustle, the luckier you get. You can be a successful parentpreneur. So, as you talked about at the opening, entrepreneurship, it's not for the faint of heart. Being a parent, that ain't so easy either. But when you combine those two together, it's like next level crazy. And so I wrote the book to inspire the millions of parentpreneurs around the world to be the best possible parent and entrepreneur they can be. And I've been just really floored at how well received it's been. If you go on Amazon, the reviews are incredible. I got it accepted in Entrepreneur I got it accepted at entrepreneur.com when I launched it. NBC Black did an excerpt. The Today Show parenting team did an excerpt in their Facebook group. Brad Feld, who's co-founder of Techstars, just a renowned venture capitalist. He did a review of it on his blog a couple months ago. People are digging it. I self-published it. Selling books is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but, people are buying it occasionally, and they love it, and I'm just thankful to be a light in the world in that way.
Yes, and I'm thankful that you're, again, a man saying that. And I'm not hating on women. I'm a woman. I love women. But it's so refreshing when we hear from the male side of the table because there's this whole thing about women and, balancing motherhood and business, but we often don't really hear from the men. And I really believe, and I hope I don't get tomatoes thrown at me for this, I think it's because a lot of times we just don't ask you. We don't make room at the table for you to share these things. But like I said, I don't want anyone to throw tomatoes at me, so I'm just going to put that out there and be quiet.
And the other thing is, for me, I feel like, and I'm not hating on, the millennials, but if you start talking about startups and tech startups, a lot of what you see is millennials getting all the shine. I actually sent a cold email. I sent a cold email to a USA Today writer just this week because they came out with a really great article about how black entrepreneurs are eschewing Silicon Valley and moving to Atlanta, because I'm in Atlanta now. But I sent her an email just introducing myself, and I said, by the way, I'm a parentpreneur advocate. Parentpreneurs need love too. We out here too. You know what I mean? It ain't just millennials on that truck grind. It ain't. So she actually appreciated that, loved the title of the book and loved the topics, and then said she was forwarding my information to her colleague who's in San Fran who covers the tech space. So there you go. I sent a cold email. You might look up in a couple of weeks and see me in USA Today. Just saying.
Oh, wow. So I love all the things you're saying because you're making it so simple. And, a lot of times we have all these paradigms and someone has the first 15 steps to do this and you got to do this and you buy this system and you da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You're just making it the basic, simple stuff that has worked for a long time.
Yeah.
So this
I'm just telling you what's worked for me. I'm just telling you, what's worked for me.
And you know what? Sometimes it's the simple things that we need to hear. Sometimes we just need to go back to basics because we're so inundated with everything else.
Yeah, so here's another example. So today there's this online tech newsletter called Urban Geeks, right? They're focused on Latinos, women, and minorities and underrepresented people in the tech space. And they just did a profile on me in Urban Geeks. And that was just luck and hustle. I was at an event that they hosted here in town, some people here, and, some of her people happened to be there, and we just connected on LinkedIn, and next thing you know, boom, they just did a write-up. Luck and hustle.
Nice. So we're going to make sure we also, in the group, I have some things scheduled, but we're going to make sure on the page as well as in the group, you have that information because they definitely need it. So what I want to do is this. I want to say that there might be someone listening because, of course, the whole point of this show is exposing the myths of entrepreneurship and then releasing the weight of it all. So let's say there's someone out there listening who feels like they've given everything and they're about to lose their shirt in their business. They're like, I'm this close to just hanging up everything. There's a struggle. I've done everything I know how. I'm completely lost. What would you tell them? What would you tell them?
You've been there. I would say, in some ways I'm still there, right? I'm still grinding like everybody else. So I would say a couple of things. And try to find a way to supplement your income, right? Drive Uber if you need to. If you live in a city where that makes sense, you can make about $20 an hour before you spend money on gas doing that. Just try to find a way to get like a little side hustle to supplement your income if you can. The other thing is mindset is everything. And I know that sounds cliche and corny, but I'm telling you, it is, man. And so I was, talking to somebody about some stuff, and I was asking them, like, how can I break through to the next chapter in life? And she said, you got to love your way through it. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean you got to love your way through it? Right? All the things that you might not like, you want to complain about, you got to love those things. You got to love those people. You got to love them. And you just, got to be as positive as possible. Stop complaining because complaining is just toxic, man. And not just out loud, but stop complaining in your head. So I think, you do. Well, because that's what it starts.
That's a good one.
So I know that's not like super concrete, but I'm just here to tell you because I've been through a lot. And 2019 is my year because we shut the business down and we just relaunched because we're making a customer segment pivot from B2C to B2B. And I have a talented CTO that's working with me now. I'm back in Atlanta and we're ready to make a solid run at this thing now. And, it has not been easy. So these are things that I've been doing myself. And I can tell you, there's some really great things happening right now. I have a call tomorrow with this home improvement chain that I pitched 5 years ago. It's a regional chain. I pitched them, and it was crickets. And they just sent me an email, hey, you're still interested in putting WeMONTAGE up on our website? We think we have an e-commerce cart solution now. Yeah, we think we have an e-commerce cart solution now. That was the problem before. Do you guys still want to do it? Well, hell yeah, we have a call with them tomorrow.
All right. So, it pays off. Sometimes they do come back. Always a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. But if I didn't do what I just told you, what I recommended, the site would not be up again, right? So he wouldn't have went to the site. He would have went to the site and it wouldn't have been up. I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So, that was on my part a Herculean effort to get this whole thing going again. But I'm here for it because I'm built for that.
And why do you think so? Was there something in your upbringing,
well, I just told you.
Was there something in life?
I just told you. I'm in the 99th percentile of persistent and resilient people on the planet. And
how does that happen?
The only difference it's in my DNA. I can't tell you. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I mean, I don't know.
Okay, that's it.
So Steve Jobs, right? Ben Horowitz in his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. That's a great book. The only difference between successful and unsuccessful CEOs of people is the successful ones don't quit. Ben Horowitz, even when you don't think you have a move, you have a move.
Yes.
So back to your other question, and I just did this myself. I had a habit of saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do next. I'm not doing that anymore. I say to myself, you know what? I know what to do. The answers are already within me, and they're all around me. So change the conversation in your head about that. You'll be surprised. You get inspired.
I love that. As a matter of fact, our mindset coach for the show, Letitia Bates, who is the founder of At the Will Coaching, this is just like a total conversation with her, because she would 1,000% agree with you. It's what your mindset is.
Dude.
It's the conversations, not just the words you're having verbally.
No.
Yes.
No, in your head. Mindset over everything.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, you're that 99%.
I made up a T-shirt. I made up a
God.
T-shirt that says that. It's my favorite T-shirt to wear. It says "Mindset over everything." Yeah, it's on T-shirt somewhere if you want to buy. If you want to buy one, yeah.
I was going to say.
Mindset over everything. It's my favorite T-shirt.
Perfect. I think some people, you might get some orders after this, because it is a reminder we need to have on a regular basis. Yeah.
For real.
So, before we move on, because we are just all of everything you shared, I was posting it as you were speaking. So the Friends of the Show Facebook group, which we put the link on the radio show Facebook page, has all those juicy nuggets for people to be able to log in and get it. But for those that are listening, how can they actually get in touch with you?
So I'm on IG at TrepDad, TREPDAD. Also at WeMONTAGE on Instagram, WeMONTAGE on Twitter, James Oliver Jr., JR, on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn at James Oliver Jr. What am I missing? Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it, I think. But just in case there's not, you're logged into our Friends of the Show group, so you can put, whatever you forgot or any tips or, things that are showing, going on, because we want to follow. And I will say, he's very personable, so you can reach out to him. He talks to you like a human being. Some people are not very personable, but he is.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
You never know. You never know with people.
Yeah.
So they seem personable on their videos, but it's like you go talk to him, it's like, no. So he's very personable.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that going on around here, but, whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, man, keep your head up, stay positive. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Like, you can do it. But you got to make sure you're selling something that people actually want to pay for. Nobody wants to pay you for it. You're probably wasting your time. You know what I mean? It's just like find a problem with a big enough problem that people are willing to pay you enough more with enough contribution margin or gross margin so that you can build a business. If nobody's willing to pay you for it, it's probably not a good idea.
Ooh. Now that should be a T-shirt. That should be a T-shirt.
I mean, like, don't bang your head against the wall if nobody wants to pay for your thing.
Yes, exactly.
Like, move
and
on.
That's
Find
one of
another
the areas you
problem
want to avoid. Exactly, because there's tons of ones out there.
Yeah, don't be just like super stubborn.
Well, some people have that in their DNA, so that's a whole nother show to talk about.
Well, I mean, me too. I'm a Taurus, so me too. I got that.
See, now I know why I like him, because so am I. So, that explains it. That explains it. But it works for business.
Yeah.
It does work for business. It's part of my drive, so it's okay.
It does. It does.
Well, James, or as I think of you as Mr. WeMONTAGE.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We need customers.
Yes,
everybody out there, support the business, please. We need customers. The product is dope. It will put a smile on your face, I promise. It's a great product.
But, the best part of it to me is, because it always reminds me of growing up, and you know how you weren't allowed to put things on the wall or don't draw on the wall or don't do this on the wall. It's this is removable. So you can have all the pictures. They're beautiful. You don't have to put a nail in anything. You can put it up. You can move it around, and it doesn't damage the wall. It's not like sticky stuff where it's going to be just stuck to the wall and I can't get it off. I'm ripping off paint. But like you said, you get those beautiful pictures. You get all of those memories. And I just think about when I look at it, it's so many different applications. It could be something for your family. It could be something in your man cave. It could be something at your church. It could be an anniversary gift, family reunion. So it's like a lot of different ways you could use it. But the best part, it's not annoying to anyone because it's not damaging anything. So, it's movable. It's all of those great things. So really, you should go to WeMONTAGE, MONTAGE.com. You can go to the Facebook page of the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. You can see the videos of it. But I just want to thank you for just your candidness and some of the really juicy tidbits you gave, the wisdom, to keep moving forward.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. And have a wonderful night. And everything is posted, so they need to make sure they look at the book, they follow you, they order from WeMONTAGE, and do all of those great things.
Exactly.
Thank
the
you
book website
so
is
much.
The book website is The More You Hustle.
Oh, there's a separate website for that.
Okay, so or you can get it on Amazon. That's fine. I make more.
Yes, we did post up the Amazon link, but
that's all good.
He's got that entrepreneur thing. He got that. He got that entrepreneur thing. So you know how we're famous for doing all the different websites. I should be rich based on all the domain names I own, but we're not even going to get into that either.
All right. Well, I'm fixing to go make me a Mexican. I'm fixing to go make me a Mexican meal. Y'all have a good night.
Yeah, he cooks too, so But thank you so much, and have an awesome night. Take care, James.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, my goodness, he's so funny. But, that's one of the things, before we go to commercial break, just keep in mind there's a lot of simple things that we can do that really will make all the difference in the world in our business. And as I said, we have the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show Facebook page, but there's also Friends of the Show Facebook group. So we have those tidbits he posted, even some of the ones he was talking about, those extra ones. We have that post of the show Facebook group. But stay tuned. We're just going to take a brief commercial, and you really, really want to hear our next guest as well. Let me ask you, could you imagine what you would do in your business if you found a point where your family of 4, including 2 young children, were homeless, and you had to manage to live off of $5,000 for the whole year? You want to meet our next guest, and you will be introduced to her shortly after this brief commercial break. You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. We'll be right back.
Have a great book idea, but clueless as to where to start? Or perhaps you published a book before, and your sales were disastrous. Exactly why are you sitting on your vision, as well as your wealth? Hi, this is Alicia Brown, the CEO of Fruition Publishing Concierge Services. We're a full publishing firm where our mission is to help you publish your amazing book idea and deliver your message to the masses. So visit us at fruitionpublishing.com to find out how you can connect with us and be our next best-selling author.
And welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. I told you it'd be a brief commercial. But definitely, we just had an amazing conversation with tech entrepreneur James Oliver Jr., the CEO of WeMONTAGE. And we heard some great strategies for raising funds for your business and how you can garner national media attention. And, of course, our next guest knows all about raising capital for an innovative business idea, but she also knows about paying the cost to be the boss. Janae Sasso is the CEO of Senior Runs. She has an extensive financial background and serves others as a financial professional and business consultant through a variety of capacities over her 15-plus year career. As the founder of the new innovative ride-sharing company, Senior Runs, she is committed to driving change in her community through entrepreneurship, and she has successfully navigated the pitching world to raise capital for this venture. Now, she also overcame a snag in the entrepreneurship world when, as a family of four, they found themselves homeless and fighting their way back up the ladder of success. So I want you at this time to help me welcome Janae Sasso to the Entrepreneurs Lounge. And Janae, we definitely welcome you to the show tonight. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Yes. And, you know, it's just so funny to hear James' story and how he raised capital for his company and some of the things he went through. But we're going to get into your story. But first, just like with him, I want you to tell us about your company, Senior Runs, and what makes it innovative.
Sure. Well, Senior Runs is a web platform and a companion driver network that provides aging and disabled adults a safe, secure, and convenient transportation solution to reverse the impact of driver cessation. And what's so innovative about that is that we are creating a network and a support system for caregivers and care receivers across the nation. So that no matter where they are, no matter where they go, they can always be empowered to provide the level of care and comfort for their loved ones as they desire. And I just think that sometimes the healthcare community of resources is so convoluted and so many barriers, and so everybody's working in silos that it's just time for a different frame of mind when it comes to serving people and their healthcare needs.
And, you know, seniors is one of those groups that when we talk about entrepreneurship, depending on what age group you are, a lot of times you have what's called the sandwich generation. So you have that entrepreneur, that career person, you're trying to take care of your children, and you're trying to take care of your aging parents.
Exactly.
And I know that's something from your background that you can definitely share with us about as well.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. That's how I came with the idea. Like most entrepreneurs, you build a business based on your own experiences and what you would like to see the world embrace and change things so that it's improved for other people. So.
Exactly. So I want to ask you a few questions about Senior Runs for a moment because it is a ride-sharing service. It is for the aging adults. So if someone said, well, why can't they just take a taxi or Uber? What is the difference between those modes of transportation and Senior Runs?
Yeah, well, the bad part about our healthcare and just people in general, we always tend to forget about certain groups of folks for various reasons. But if you have served as a caregiver for any length of time and you're dealing with someone that has a chronic or debilitating illness or disease or terminal disease, you understand that there's a lot of times where their health is going to decline to the point where they're not able to do things independently anymore. And that puts more pressure on you as a caregiver. And so we service people that cannot travel alone. This is for people that may have dementia, Alzheimer's. Maybe they're not stable on their feet. They use a wheelchair. They use a walker. They just have chronic illnesses or diseases that don't allow for them to effectively navigate public transportation or the Uber system or anything like that. And so they need, not only do they need a ride, but they need a companion. They need companionship. And so we provide not just transportation. As a matter of fact, a lot of our drivers don't even spend a lot of time on the road. They spend most of their time building relationships as companions with those seniors, because a lot of them, because they don't get out, because they can't drive, they're pretty much isolated. And so my goal as a founder is to really combat that whole isolation. I don't like to see our seniors left behind because they're sick or they're fighting a disease. I like to keep them engaged, keep them healthy and vibrant. And what people don't realize is that a lot of our seniors suffer in isolation, causes their cognitive decline to progress even quicker. So if we can keep people engaged in life and happy about life, and, you know, even if they can't do it by themselves, we provide that added level of care that's required for their unique care needs.
And again, you're following the perfect order of what James Oliver said just a few moments ago. You're having that problem that you create that people are willing to pay for, you know, and it's that unique solution. Yeah, because, you know, you can just imagine with some of what you said after you explained what Senior Runs is and how it is different from another transportation service. People that have aging parents like that, you still have to go and work. I can't be there all the time, but how scary is it in the back of your mind that, you know, that parent, that loved one is in that state and they still need care, they still need to go to the doctor's office, you still want them to have as much of a life as possible, but you cannot be there hands-on every minute of the day.
Exactly. So just to give your listeners an example of the impact that we have, our clients reach as far as Australia. We have caregivers in Australia that have relatives that live here in our home base state, and it's because of us that they're able to provide the level of care and comfort to their loved one because we're here. Another good thing about us, too, is that we don't have a lot of restrictions. We're not focused on the essential transportation like most companies. You know, it has to be a medical necessity. We take you anywhere, wherever you want to go, you know, because our whole focus is to get people out of the mindset of creating a life around their disease and being defined by their disease. Instead, we want them to be able to do the things that bring them the greatest joy and live from that type of a fulfilling place rather than the place of sickness, disease, and discomfort. So there's a big difference in the mindset of how we're trying to shift culture, unlike other transportation companies that are there to service a general population. We're very much of a niche type of organization.
That's just gold. And how old is Senior Runs?
Well, like your previous guest, I was listening in, and we share a very similar path of ups and downs. And so Senior Runs Senior Runs came as a result we did a soft launch in September of 2017, and it came as a result of 7 years of trying to figure out what our customers actually wanted and what they needed, and how to do it where it was cost effective for the buyer, for the user. And so it took me some time to kind of figure it out. And so I, like James, I stopped for a little while and had to come up with something different. And so we pivoted. We decided to pivot the business and focus more on transportation. We still do a lot of what we did before, but our focus is really that transportation, which was what the market really had been telling me it wanted from the very beginning. I just could not figure out how to do it in a non-conventional way. And so finally, in 2017, I was able to figure that out and just went for the gusto, and we've been cruising along ever since.
You mean you just didn't come up with this fabulous idea and everybody wanted it, and you launched your company and it was just massively successful?
Not at all.
Does it happen?
Well, you know what? And I'll tell you something that most investors, and like especially in the angel and VC world, and even like if you watch, if you listen to Barbara Cochran from Shark Tank, she always tells you the way that she picks businesses. She doesn't pick businesses based on the fact that she thinks they're going to be a unicorn or a dragon. She picks them based off of the jockey, who's riding the horse, because at the end of the day, you could have a great idea and it fall flat. But the question is do you have what it takes to get back up and try again, and to be innovative and creative in your solutions on how to move forward? That's what makes you an entrepreneur, not the fact that you can come up with this brilliant idea, but the fact of how resilient and persistent you can be in your pursuit of creating something phenomenal that's going to impact and change the world.
Yes, I love that. So another question I want to ask you is, you said at this point you have caregivers in Australia.
Yes.
How did you build to that reach with the company in such a short time?
Well, I mean, the way that it came was because of all the investment and hard work that I did the previous 7 years. I mean, I've been at my company for 7 years. We just changed our name, but we've been in existence since like 2013, late 2013, 2014. So I had been working on this and never gave up, never stopped building contacts. I might have slowed down on, putting efforts into putting out new products or services or things like that. But I always kept a stiff upper chin. I still went out there and networked. And so as a result, the reason why I'm able to gain so much traction so quickly is because I have a huge network in the healthcare community in our home base. So that really gave me some leverage. All the sales that we've made up to this point have been from referrals. I just started this month doing proactive advertising. Before then, we were doing it strictly off of the strength of my referral network. So that just shows you the power of not giving up, not telling, somebody asks you, how's it going? It's going fine, going lovely. You don't got to be, blasting all of your woes and your tears and all kinds of craziness. You don't. Yeah, you just keep going and you muddle through, and people never know what's going on. They don't unless you tell them, and everybody doesn't need to know. You have your circle that can handle the truth of the reality that you're facing. But as you're going and building this thing as an entrepreneur and paving your way, you just have to keep going. Like your previous guest said, you just can't stop. You've got to be those people that just refuse to give up. And I just happen, like James, I just happen to be one of those people. So,
and it's so funny because out of the time I've known you, my mindset. First of all, I'll be just honest. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur because I thought entrepreneurs are nuts. I mean, it takes a crazy person to sit up here. Yeah, I realize, but it's like now I'm on the side of the table with the nuts. It's like, well, you were right. We are crazy. Yeah. It's like, what type of an idiot is going to go and do something where there's not a guaranteed check? I mean, are you out of your mind? But then it's like, you are one of the people. I have two people that I can hear your voice at the worst of times, either ear. And I remember you both just emphasizing it's up and down. You've got to keep pushing. And it's like, there are those times when you just want to completely just shut down. But if you're really an entrepreneur, you're going to keep going.
Exactly.
I don't care what capacity. Exactly. Like James said, if you find something else to supplement your income, you got to keep going.
Yeah, you do what has to be done to make it work and to carry yourself through until you get that break that you're looking for, that you're waiting for. So it's a long game. It's not a short game. And I think with the celebrityism of all the entrepreneurs, especially the younger ones, it makes it appear like, it's just going to happen tomorrow. And what people don't realize is that there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and more tears that went into that success story. And I just don't think enough of the successful people share that part of the journey, so that people can really have a reality check. Is this something that I really think I can do? It's cute. It's the trendy thing to say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. But, when I meet those folks, I ask them certain questions, and if they give me certain answers, I'm like, no, you're not an entrepreneur. You have a hobby, and you're playing it safe. I challenge you to jump off that ledge like I did, like so many of the rest of us. And let's see if you can fly.
Ooh. And you know what? I remember that. That was one of the key sayings I remember you saying in the beginning. You said, until you have lost something, you are not truly an entrepreneur. Until you've really risked losing it all, but until you've lost something. Tell us what you meant by that, because you've had some serious losses.
Oh yeah, and what I mean by that is that it's not in the fact that you lose. It's what that loss drives you to do. It reveals to you who you really are, right? So if you're going to be in this thing for the long haul, then you've got to deal with failure pretty well. I mean, you can't sit in your room and cry and fight with your spouse and yell at your kids because things are not going the way that you would hope they would go. And you have to go in knowing that loss. Yeah, right. You have to go in knowing that loss is a part of the success formula. I mean, it's trial and error. I get excited by the fact when I wake up in the morning I have problems, and then by the end of the day I solve them. Like, that thrills me. That's not like everybody's mind. Most people run away from problems. Entrepreneurs actually run to problems. And we get excited, and it's almost like a high that you get because you're solving problems. It's like, oh, how can I make this work? And so that's what keeps the fuel burning inside of me, is that, I know that I've got to do and grind and do everything. I've driven Uber. I've donated plasma. I always tease my family. Tell my kids, your mom's done everything to make $1 except the pole. And we've always got that in the back of our minds, right, children? They laugh.
Yes, Lord. It's like, y'all laughing, but that is a business lesson. And it pays off if you're in the right place. So, hey. Like on those clothes, it's not so funny now, is it? Because she's making some money tonight. Hey, it's like some days people are looking like, I would never do that. I'm like, well, there's some days I don't think I would. Exactly. So like on those low days, like, now let's see. Where would I have to go? What's the protocol?
You're right.
Yeah, it gets a little ugly sometimes. It gets a little ugly.
But you got to keep a good sense of humor. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yes.
You've got to choose to be happy with this lifestyle. You just can't have that rigid mindset that everything has to be a certain way at a certain time by a certain deadline. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. And so because it's a long game, you've got to choose to be happy. You've got to choose to deal with all the crap and that you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it's, trying to figure out how you're going to meet payroll or how you're going to pay for this marketing budget or whatever it is. You just got to be prepared. That has to excite you. And if it doesn't excite you, then it's really not a game that you want to be a part of, because you're going to get clobbered. You're going to get killed, because it's dangerous all at the same time.
Yes.
You better know how to
fight. You're totally, I always say when I look back, and even now, I never truly, what I thought I knew I was made of, it was nothing like entrepreneurship to test that. And it's like there's been some serious lows, but my best highs are the fact that somehow I overcame those lows. And it's like you thought you were capable of this much, but once you make it over that terrible low, it just shows you, no, you've got a lot more in you. You have a lot more strength than you actually thought. And if I'm capable of that much, how much more is there that's untapped that I don't know? My genius zone. So yeah,
Exactly.
we are a little crazy, but it's a good crazy.
Yep.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you, just like James, how did you initially fund your business?
Always has been my personal finances primarily, and over the years, I've met different what they call accredited investors that individually have invested in my business, and now I'm actually entering the angel funding round world in the venture capital world. So every step of my journey has been a part of my evolution as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur, as a financier. And that's what entrepreneur does. It changes you and it grows you up and it develops you over time. So initially I'm putting my money in and trying to make it happen. And I go out in there and I prove what I can do. Can I execute? And then I go and I can show something to investors to say, hey, look, I've already put my money in. This is what I'm doing. You need to get behind me, and so I can keep pushing further. And that's the way you capture their attention, is they want to know what you've put in, what have you invested, what what skin do you have in the game? Because if you're not willing to invest in your own idea, why should someone else do that?
And I think sometimes there's a misconception that people think I'm going to come up with this great idea, and then I'm just going to be able to pitch it. I can, we got a lot of pitching competitions. I'm just going to pitch it. And because if it's a really good idea, people are just going to give me money.
Yeah, it would be nice if that worked. Well, there's a couple of things with that. One, people have to understand, you have to speak what I call the language of business. That was a hard lesson that I learned early on. And it was the reason why I suffered a lot of loss, is because I did not understand the language of business. And therefore, because my vocabulary and my level of sophistication when it came to business and finances, I attracted a certain type of mindset of people. And they were not the best partners for me. I didn't know how to choose partners. I didn't know how to choose an accountant. I didn't know how to choose an investor. I didn't know how to choose those people because I didn't have the vocabulary to really have the conversations that mattered. My knowledge was very basic. And so I paid a price to learn what I needed to know. It's almost like the saying, you don't know what you don't know. It's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you don't know that messes you up. So that's a big.
But you have a finance background. So when you say you didn't know the language, explain to them what you like. People go to, one thing I say about entrepreneurship, a lot of us have taken classes or we went to school for degrees. But I think what's common with a lot of us, we would say, that didn't really teach us how to be an entrepreneur. So just because you may have that, or even if you don't, but just because you may have that or I went to this class, doesn't equate to you having the language of finance and business. So how do they get that? How do they broaden that area? How did you do that?
To one, admit that you don't know it. And that's the first thing, is humbling, that you have to admit that, you don't know everything. And, when I started out, I was, in my early 20s, and when you're in your early 20s, you think you know everything. And
of course you do.
As a result, I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't read the good books that I do now. I just didn't have the habits, because I thought, oh, this is a piece of cake. I got a good idea. I'm talented. I'm smart. I mean, I've been excelling all in my academic career. What do you mean I don't know what I'm doing? And so I just didn't know what questions to ask. So once I had my first huge loss, I said, there's something that I don't know. And that's when I realized that I didn't know how to analyze and understand my financial statements, which was why I didn't understand cash flow, and I didn't understand, equity, and I just didn't understand, the P&L. I didn't know how to read that stuff, and I didn't know how to select an accountant that was a business partner and not just somebody that did my taxes. It was just a different mindset that I had to develop. I mean, I was in financial services. I was selling, investments, but that's a sales background. That's not really applicable to starting a business and knowing how to set your books up and knowing what those numbers mean. What's the story behind the numbers? And as you grow and evolve as an entrepreneur, especially if you're trying to raise capital from accredited investors or angel investors or venture capitalists, you better know your stuff, because you're going to be sitting in there having conversations, and if you don't have the ability to, communicate effectively, I mean, because there's just terminology that today I know very well, but I didn't know that when I first started. I had no clue. I didn't know what a cap rate was. I mean, I just didn't know that stuff. I wasn't to that level. It wasn't time for me to have those conversations. I had a lot of learning that needed to take place before I got to the point where I am today. So I would say give yourself time and study and meet different people that are at different stages of business. I didn't know what it was to build a massive enterprise, something that venture capitalists or angel funders would even be interested in. They're not interested in the businesses that I had in the beginning. I thought that I could make like a ton of money, but now I realize, those weren't scalable, and they wouldn't even be interested in that. I mean, it was good that you got a few individual people to give you money to do certain things, but even they were ignorant and they didn't even know. They just were following my passion, but they weren't the right fit for what I ultimately wanted to do. So it's just a learning process. You just gotta eat, sleep, and breathe business at all levels and all stages.
And I love that, because what you're showing is, sometimes as an entrepreneur, when things are not going well, we're really hard on ourselves. And you find where people just feel like you're a failure, obviously I'm not cut out for this, when it's just a part of the process. And a lot of times people have that death of the comparison game, well, she's doing what I want to do, or they're over here doing a different business and look at their success. But it's like, no, it's just a part of the process. I think our former guest, James Oliver, said that, there was an incubator that opened up where he was. So that was his opportunity, even though in that area it wasn't a lot for the business he was in. That was the opportunity for him to go and learn. So definitely when people are talking about, venture capital and the pitching contests and things he's done, that might be the first place you go, is around those pitch contests, not necessarily I want to do it right now, but let me see who are the key people. Let me see what information they share. Let me look at what businesses they're attracted to, who wins the competition, and then study from there to prepare yourself for when you're at that level.
Exactly. And you got to do your own personal development, your own work, like James talking about mindset. I mean, back then I wasn't ready to have these conversations. There's no way in the world I would be able to handle all the different moving parts that are going on right now. I just didn't have the temperament. I didn't know how to lead people well. I just was not equipped personally to be the leader that I am today. I had the raw materials, but they hadn't been perfected yet. And so, and not to say that it's perfect now, but it's a lot better. People will invest in me and take me seriously now. They're like, oh, you can execute. Oh, yeah, I'll follow you. I'll work. I'll help you. It's just different. You attract, at the end of the day, you attract what you are. And I can actually trace every level of personal and professional development, each stage. I can look at the people I attracted, and I see the complete difference in the caliber and the quality of the people. It's just like, wow. So it just showed me why I needed to go through that evolutionary process to get to this point. So I don't minimize those experiences at all. They were very much quite necessary for me, for my journey.
I just love it. I just love it, because these are, one of the things that with this show, being that we're dealing with entrepreneurs, dealing with the fact that we're exposing the myths and we're trying to release the weight the burdens of it all. You know, we have a mindset coach who's dedicated to the show. So it's funny, as each guest comes on and the things you're saying, I'm like, this is so our conversation. This is exactly what Letitia Bates would say. Just so you guys are so on point. Not that I didn't know that she knew what she was talking about, but it's like you're just so on point. The mindset is different, and as an entrepreneur, you will see that evolve. Speaking of mindset, I did mention earlier that there was a point where you and your family, you had two young children. Your children technically are still young, but you had two young children at the time. And you found yourself where you were homeless and you had to live off $5,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that. Because just that figure, it's like $5,000 a year.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
4 people,
it's a miracle.
2 kids.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
Yeah. What happened? How did you, Lord have mercy. I want to hear that story. I want them to hear that story.
Well, you know, it was, you know, I was in business for myself, and, you know, I was doing very well. And then, you know, about the Great Recession that happened, and the bottom fell out of everything. So did my investors and everybody else that was so for me when things were good. So you learn how to choose partners. All money ain't good. I learned that lesson. So today, I don't care who comes knocking on my door. I have to know that you're a good partner before I take your money. I'm not into taking your money just because, you know, you have plenty of it to shove my way. I got to know that you're a good partner. So because I didn't have good partners, they left me high and dry because everybody was fighting to fend for themselves. And I was at a very vulnerable stage of growth in my business. I was in no way near the capacity to continue that machine with my minimal resources. And so, you know, it just all collapsed around me, just like a lot of people. I wasn't really any different than a lot of people that were, you know, whether it was the job or what have you. I mean, my husband, even his retirement, he lost about, you know, 70% of his value of his portfolio in one day that he worked all his life for.
Wow.
So it was just the impact of, you know, what was going on economically across the globe. I just got caught up in it. And those things, you know, they happened. But the way that I got through it was because before I even started on that journey, I had already asked myself the question, what if you lose it all? Are you prepared to build again? And if the answer was no, I was not going to go forward with that venture. But I said yes. I said, yeah, I can do that. If the crap hits the fan and I lose it all, I know I have it in me to come back. So where some people may have probably lost their minds because we were living a very comfortable lifestyle, and you know, we just were comfortable. I could do what I want and buy what I want. Matter of fact, I was kind of bored because people don't realize money doesn't solve all of your problems as far as you know, your happiness and emotional state. You still have a lot of emptiness inside. So, you know, I just made the decision that if things did not work out the way that I want, was I prepared to build again? And so because I made that conscious decision and I was intentional with that decision, then I held myself accountable to the answer that I gave myself when I first started out. So I didn't have time to cry and stay in my pity party. I said, no, you said that if you lost everything, you would get back up. So you have to get back up. Where most people don't act in life with that much intention. So when they get to those points, those breaking points, they lose it because they never imagined what they would do if that were to happen. But because I made that choice and I consciously made that choice to be able to push through something like that, if the worst case scenario panned out, then it was easier for me mentally to overcome that and to lead my family through that. So yeah, my husband, you know, I had a lot going on those years. I mean, I lost my house. My father was sick. I was a caregiver. So I had to deal with my dad dying, and I mean, it was just a lot going on. I had 2 small kids. I mean, my kids are teenagers now, but I think my son, he was probably about 6 or 7, and my daughter was about 2 or 3, you know, so it was a very a very tumultuous time. And so we just did what we had to do. But, it all worked out in the end because I kept a positive mindset. I knew that I would get through it and that we would be fine. And it was just a part of the course. Sometimes in life you just got to eat crap for a while. And, we just did what we had to. We just muddled on through. I had a supportive husband, so he understood what was happening. It had nothing to do with us because we were doing things were going well. It was just the sign of the times, and it was nothing. It was situation and circumstances outside of our control, really, all the way around, other than the fact that if I had some better partners, I might not have taken such a hard hit, but because I didn't have the knowledge to make those decisions, then I just wasn't prepared for that. But it's all a part of the learning process. And like you said, once you realize, when you get to those type of levels, from having everything you want to having nothing, there's nothing that can stop you, because your confidence level, when you come out on the other side of that thing, your confidence level is through the roof. So when I go into pitches and I lose, and I go into angel investors and they say no, or I go here and they say no, it doesn't faze me. I'm like, I've been through so much. A no, what can that do?
Pretty much.
It puts things in perspective, and it actually empowers you. If you can make it through it, it'll empower you to really push through when it really counts, when you're building that large enterprise, that you've been hoping for.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked James, because you shared the story with us. But honestly, there are entrepreneurs that are famous, have much more money, and who have been through some things maybe as bad or less than that, who commit suicide, or who battle through a severe depression and never come back out of it. What would you say to someone who feels like they're just in, that entrepreneur that feels like they just want to hang up? They're in. I've done everything I know how to do. Nothing is coming together, and I can't make it work. And they are just literally on the edge, ready to just throw it all away. What would you say to them from your experience?
I would tell them to step back. A lot of times in my journey, when I hit kind of what you call like those brick walls, I just take a step back and regroup my thoughts, retool. There's something that you don't know, and you have to be willing to take the time to invest in learning. And so I actually went back to school. I went back to college to learn about accounting, because I said, I don't know something here. And I took a job doing accounting, the very thing that I knew that I didn't know enough about. That's the thing that I pursue. So rather than go into myself and just, beat up on myself and stay in my corner and just cried and, the days and months away, I decided to retool and refocus. It's almost like a person that loses a job, like the economy we have now. There's people that have been working on their jobs for years and years, and those jobs are disappearing, and they're out in the streets fighting, politicians to try to bring jobs back and all that kind of stuff. And that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, things change, and you have to know how to deal with change. And part of dealing with change is learning how to look away so that you can retool and refocus. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to wallow in the muck and mire of your situation, and that's not going to get you anywhere. And you've got to reach out and talk to people. I mean, we had so much help in our community. People were bringing us food. We couldn't afford a refrigerator. People brought us a refrigerator. We didn't even have stove. I mean, the basic necessities of life, we had to rely on the kindness of strangers, but we couldn't get anything from a stranger if we did not tell people what was going on, So you can't be in solitude and isolate yourself from the world. You've got to find somebody somewhere that you can reach out for help, whether it's monetary, whether it's emotional, psychological. But by all means, did I not lock myself in a room and never come out? I wouldn't have survived if I had done that. So you've got to tell somebody what you're going through so that you can learn what you need to do to help guide yourself out of that situation.
And I'm so glad you said that, because that's not typically the norm. Typically we do retreat in self, and that just makes it worse. So that is really sound advice. No one will help you if you don't ask for the help that you need.
And don't be ashamed.
And
don't be ashamed.
Yes, because that's another thing of internalizing, and it's your fault, and how do I let it get here? You are absolutely right, not to be ashamed. But Janae, after hearing your story, I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are going to want to connect with you. How can they connect with you, and then what type of services do you offer in helping them grow their business?
Well, you can connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter under my name, Janae Sasso. That's where you can find me on Twitter at Janae Sasso. And some of the services that I offer is business consulting or just mentorship. Part of my business with Senior Runs is to develop other entrepreneurs. We are a tech company. We are a web platform. And what we do is we generate leads for our companion drivers who are technically building their own business using our platform. So I'm raising up a whole nother, group of entrepreneurs, because I see the value in that lifestyle. So, if you want to follow me and learn, more about entrepreneurship, I invite you. I have a couple of books on Amazon, speaking to those of us that are over a certain age, because I'm really passionate about reinvigorating people over 40 to pursue their dreams. Once you hit a certain age, the world tries to tell you that it's too late, and, you struggle with, am I too old? I haven't accomplished what I want, and da-da-da-da-da, I don't know if I can do it. And I went through that as well. So my goal is to empower people of a certain age to, you still got it in you. Matter of fact, this is the best time of your life to do your greatest work, and that's what I believe about myself and my journey.
Indeed. So, Janae, I just thank you for being here tonight and all of your transparency and candidness, because, it's truly what anyone going through certain challenges at different stages in entrepreneurship truly needs to hear. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll make sure in the private Facebook group that we put the links to your books and put the links to your personal contact information, so our listeners will know how to actually connect with you and purchase those things.
That's right. Thank you much.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you. And audience, that's our show for tonight. Remember, the Entrepreneur Lounge radio show airs every first and third Thursday in the month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are here to expose the myths of entrepreneurship and help you release the weight of it all. Now, you definitely want to tune in for our Thursday, April 4th episode, Taking the Fear Out of Entrepreneurship, where our featured guest is going to be Dr. Anthony Miles, who is a nationally known startup and marketing expert. This man has been featured in nationally syndicated media outlets, as well as various media circuits, and he was invited and recently spoke at Stanford University and Harvard Business School. He's also the CEO and founder of Miles Development Industries Corporation. So at this time, our final word will be from our mindset coach, Letitia Bates of At the Wheel Coaching.
The reason that people don't want to deal with what's holding them back is because it does not feel good to look back. So the easier thing to do is to live in what I call your condition zone. It's not a comfort zone because it doesn't make you comfortable. You're just familiar with it.
Letitia Bates, Certified Life Coach.
So I'm always working with my clients to meet them at their needs. I am listening to where they are. I do have to help them move to that next level, but we're going to go slow, and what they can expect from me is kindness, respect, and compassion.
Go to atthewheelcoaching.com and start driving your life back to higher ground.
What I help you do is understand anything that you've gone through, you've already survived. That's why you're here. And we can work together to deal with those uneasy feelings and help you move forward.
Go now to atthewheelcoaching.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Entrepreneur's Lounge, where we expose the myths of entrepreneurship and release the weight of it all. Real people, real issues, and real talk with expert solutions. Make sure you stay tuned to our Facebook page and thejoyguru.net for show updates, announcements, and to learn how you can be a guest on our show.